I'm not gonna do much fast-forwarding, but we can certainly go through the tutorial part to start things off, since we've already seen it. We were so frustratingly close to finishing the mission when Dorcas got stabbed, and I decided to keep the scorecard the same after the last clip, since, well, we saw the kills on screen, even if the game itself didn't save them or the level up that happened through each kill. And we certainly worked for them. So as long as they show up on screen in my playthrough, they will count. It's still a bit awkward that the game isn't going to remember the 20 kills we did over the course of the previous clip, but considering the sheer length of the missions in this game, it's quite the pain in the ass that we aren't even going to be done with this mission in this clip, since we had to start it over again. But at the very least, it's a nice little indication for why, from around the point of Awakenings and afterwards, the franchise allowed for the player to choose to not have the whole permanent death thing going on anymore. Sure, the tension of possibly losing someone that you don't want to gives the older games a certain amount of tension with each mission, but given the length of each mission, and how quickly things can go from fine to, oh god, you've lost someone, and can make it incredibly frustrating to deal with, even if you like the overall gameplay loop. It doesn't help that the games are generally trying to go for an especially bleak vibe, like something along the lines of XCOM, where you're expecting to lose a good number of people. While the game doesn't do anything in order to make the various characters feel like they have their own narratives over the course of the game, they still do have more personality than most soldiers you're issued in something like XCOM. It doesn't help that Dorcas is our only axe user on the team, and the only other person who uses an axe around here is Mullis, the guy I don't want to use, but the game threw into our team here. We'll have another few axe users in the next campaign, but there is going to be no more recruiting for this particular campaign. Right, let's get Florina to pull back again. I'm clearly not making all that many decisions that are all that different from what happened last time, which kind of encourages me to use the save state function later on in this game at some points. Sure, it's an emulator thing, not something that the game itself included into the whole functionality of things. Using it is something that could be considered cheating, but on the other hand, 3 houses gives the player the power to rewind time and take back decisions. And that is a far more in-depth way to do the same sort of thing that a save-scumming guy with an emulator willing to set up multiple save states in their emulator to get the approximate same thing done. Sure, they are limited in how many times you can do a rewind in each given mission, so things wouldn't get too forgiving, but still, they realized that something like that could add to the fun of these games. So any future uses of an emulator save states to get through some of these missions, I won't feel as guilty about, as opposed to, say, something like Metroid, where that never became a mechanic in the franchise at all. Anyway, looks like I'm keeping Lucius on the south side of the map instead of taking him north. We'll see how that changes the complexion of things out here. Certainly feels like a small difference at the moment, but might build up to something later. Excuse me for being slightly annoyed that Kent took a hit that only had a 35% chance at touching him. He can take it, but I'm still feeling a bit miffed after Dorcas died from losing a coin toss last time. Seriously, the guy is supposed to have an advantage against spearmen, and he very much could have killed the guy who killed him if luck was slightly different there. But I suppose that's part of the point of tactics, to make luck have less of a deciding hand on if you get through to the end. Well, at least one of those shots landed. Okay, we've got a slight traffic jam at the bridge. It's not that big of an issue, but still apparently a common problem for me. I'm just blocking myself off over and over again around here. And then I have long periods of feeling indecisive for what I should do after a certain point. And when you're this early in a mission, it's hard to tell what could be a mistake, and if it is, how big a mistake it might end up being. I certainly made plenty of mistakes last time before the final one that got Dorcas killed, but a lot of them were manageable, or I had time to adjust and correct things to avoid the mistake landing a bit too hard. But that one? Sure, I knew it might have been iffy before I did it, but was confident we could survive the fallout. And by the time I realized it was a lethal mistake, there was nothing I could do, just watch Dorcas take the hit from the spearman we didn't see in the fog. But I should have remembered that he was there. Those two spearmen do not move unless you get too close to the boss, and the boss doesn't move at all. They are not in any way proactive threats on the battlefield, they are reactive. And it possibly says something that I'm in more danger due to reactive opponents who wait for me to come than active enemies who will try to come to us. Wallace really doesn't need any healing since we're not planning on getting him into any fights here. Still, it's given Sarah something to do. Besides, most of the people who might be in danger are down here in the south, so Sarah has easy access to them. Well, the enemy reinforcements definitely aren't much worth being afraid of at the moment. Now, the enemies in the next campaign might get more capable than the grunts in the first campaign as the missions keep adding up. This is technically speaking a rather long and in-depth tutorial campaign. Still, we are 11 missions into this game. I feel like the standard enemies should have a bit more going for them this far in. Though at the same time, I feel like the bosses should not be so many steps above their grunts. Maybe it all balances itself out. Anyway, the fog has arrived again. Let's see what we can do now that our visibility is being messed with. And great, now I can't help wondering if Florina is going to manage to take anyone down if Urk is positioned in a way to just absolutely slaughter the spearmen coming from the castle on the top left of the map. There are not a lot of targets out here that she'd be especially good against. Fingers crossed that Dorcas isn't gonna have anywhere near the same amount of trouble he had in the previous attempt on this mission. Great. Now part of me is wondering if it would have been a better idea to have Dorcas standing in this fortress as Lynn heads closer to the boss. But then there are a lot of things that we could have done with the resources we've got here. It's part of the fun when there are multiple different ways to pull off victory, instead of just one very strict method to get the job done. It's part of what makes it tactics instead of puzzle. sorry, not even slightly tempted to use the torches to extend our sight, especially this far away from the rest of the party, and it's not like using one of them would have allowed for Kent to react to the guys who were right next to him in time to actually strike at him there. Now, I'm not saying they're completely useless for the one thing in the entire game they were designed for. I'm saying I generally don't feel tempted to use it, just like the special water meant to make someone more resistant against magical attacks, because we are not just one person going up against these hordes. It is a team effort. Maybe it's another case of me not being experimental enough with the tools I get in a given game to see what is and isn't especially amazing in a given situation. Or maybe I just find the fog to be, in its own way, a decent little gimmick to help make a given mission feel unique, and don't want to do anything to really cancel that out. Both kind of feel pretty plausible to me. I feel like Wrath is more likely to take a hit in the next turn than Kent, so let's heal him up here. We can heal up Kent in the next turn. Guess it doesn't hurt to bring Wallace along, even if I'm not planning on him getting any kills in. The man is the most physically durable guy we've got as far as I know. Even if I don't want him to get any kills, I can at least use him as a mobile shield, just in case things might go badly again. Well, things don't seem to be going too badly for Zane right now. Really, a 3% chance at a critical and he lands it? Nice way to gain a kill there, and the first blow missing gave the poor passer he was fighting a false sense of hope. So, 2 archers. Each can only do 1 health of damage to Zane, each and a swordsman who can't hurt him at all. He definitely feels pretty covered to me. I'd still feel a bit less worried if he took out the archers, so Florina has one less thing to worry about over there. I'm also a bit surprised that Wrath didn't take a hit in that last turn. Okay, guess Urk is gonna go after this guy instead of the Axeman, who's going to try going down the mountains there. I certainly feel like Florina is less likely to get killed by a guy swinging an axe at her than I am of some arrow necking her frickin' Pegasus and sending her tumbling down hard. The north certainly looks pretty secure at the moment, though I suppose it's easy for things to look secure when we've literally got fog blocking off our view of the entire battlefield. It gives the impression that our forces outnumbering the enemy here, even when that's not actually the case. I don't think we've gone through a single mission in this game where the player has deployed more troops over the course of an entire battle than the enemy. Hell, I doubt that's ever gonna be something that happens in the entire franchise. It's the whole conservation of ninjutsu thing. The more numerous the foes, the easier they are to take down, and this is a tactics-driven franchise. And part of the fun are the moments where we have a little bit of a choice, but split the team up in some odd ways, just to cover all the possible problems we need to deal with in order to get the job done in the way we want. Which, in this instance, means me being a bloodthirsty bastard as we fight against the very kingdom that Kent and Zane serve, with both of them in the lead for the most kills, because of course the 2 highly mobile guys with 2 weapon types have more opportunities to kill than the likes of Dorcas or Florina, who are stuck with weapon types that have no real way for them to cover their own weaknesses without some kind of help. I'm afraid that Wrath doesn't have much of a chance to become one of the top scorers on the team, even if horse archery was a major thing in history. As much as I like archers in this series, they certainly don't have as much going for them, especially in this game. Especially when the enemy doesn't have any airborne units 11 missions in. Are we gonna start fighting against some flying hostiles in the next mission? Or are we gonna have to wait for the next campaign before we start having to counter enemy flyers? I guess it's understandable he went after Urk there. After all, his blade can't even pierce through Zane's armor, and it's not like he has any other options to strike against. Yeah, we're getting to a point where Florina has to pull back to Sarah for healing. On the one hand, I feel like I'm risking her a bit too much. On the other hand, she flies into battle on a horse with wings and drives her spear into her enemies. Regardless of how shy her personality is, in some ways, she's about as close to a Valkyrie as you can get out here. Though it certainly feels like Lynn has the sort of kill count you would expect from that kind of bold warrior woman of myth. Great. Now I can't help wishing there were more female combatants in our crew. It's not like gender really seems to affect anybody's stats as far as I can tell. It's just that since there's no real character interactions to help build on the introductions to each member of our team, they may as well be blank slates. Hell, for a lot of the characters we've recruited, they don't even really have sprites or appearances that are especially distinct compared to enemies of the same class. Lynn is classed as a lord, so she gets the most distinct appearance, with Nils also getting one since I don't think the enemy ever gets that class of support character working for them. Florina only looks distinct because we haven't seen any other Pegasus riders in the game yet, and similarly, we've yet to see the enemy get any healers like Sarah, assuming they ever do. Hell, with the way the AI has been programmed in this game, I would not be surprised if we never see a hostile healer or dancer in either of the Game Boy Advanced games. Okay, apparently I'm being indecisive again. Am I thinking that Florina can get another kill in before we get her some desperately needed healing? On the one hand, that swordsman is nice and weak, but on the other, I doubt her chance of hitting him are gonna be better than Sane's. Anyway, looks like Sane managed to remove that question. Apparently, I'm not going to try to take the initiative against that particular Axeman for some reason. I've got other concerns right now, like prepping to go after the boss that managed to kill one of us last time. That doesn't actually tell you if you're in danger from the boss, since again, the bosses around here really don't seem all that inclined to move most of the time. Though I suppose seeing the red squares should have been a sign of him having a ranged weapon. I definitely should have paid more attention to that last time. really getting the sense that I don't have much of a plan. I'm just doing things for the sake of moving around. Completely untouched for that kill. Not really sure I'm a fan of the level up, but hey, it's still an improvement over last time we walked towards this corner. And that's a second one for Dorcas. I can't really say this redeems him, since last time it was entirely my fault he went down. It's still nice to see, though. Was a little worried Urk would take that hit. Probably no real point in visiting this house, but I like to go through what conversations we can in a given game. Though I'm sure there are plenty of conversations that we're gonna miss in this playthrough regardless of how long I take to do it. I'm certainly not sure what it would take for our characters to bond in this game, something that's a bit of a franchise-wide mechanic. Why do I like Sarah's level up more than Dorcas's? Considering I don't want her to take any hits and she's not a combatant, anything that makes her more durable actually kind of feels a bit pointless. Oof. Speaking of pointless, Kent just is not the man we want striking this bastard. Lucius can do more damage, but there's no way he's gonna survive 2 hits or dodge 2 in a row here. Bloody hell, Dorcas isn't much better, and I thought he would be the one to finish off this guy. There goes what little of a plan I had for this fight. It's not unwinnable, but it's not gonna be the easy sweep I thought it was gonna be in the previous clip. Hell, you'd think the fact that we took our first casualty in the previous clip towards the guy I thought would finish things would be the biggest sign that this wasn't going to be as easy as everything else before it. Hell, the fact that we started this mission gaining someone who is so much more durable than anyone else on the team should have been a very big sign that things were going to be rough here. And here I am, going out of my way not to use the heavily armored bastard. At the very least, this guy can take a bump, and we've got someone that's pretty capable of causing some damage to us as the local boss. Wait, Il's just gained a point in strength? That's gotta be the most pointless point he could have possibly gained. He's not allowed to use any weapons whatsoever. Definitely interesting that this is the first boss where I try to go out of my way to do a lot of positioning against him instead of just immediately starting to strike him. Eagler is definitely more memorable in a number of ways here. And I have the distinct feeling we're not gonna kill him until the next clip. Sorry in advance for another abrupt ending to a clip in this Let's Play, but hey, it just wouldn't feel right to do a lot of fast-forwarding in this game, not when careful decision-making is a major part of how the entire franchise works. Yeah, we're letting Wallace take a hit from the bastard to start things off against him. At the very least, that should buy some more time for the northern group to get down to the boss. It also feels like we're pretty much done with the enemy's reinforcements. Just need to have Lynn finish off that last axe user, and we can get her moving towards the fortress she's supposed to seize. Looks like the first of Sarah's healing staffs has finally worn out. We've certainly kept her working hard in every mission she's been in. I kind of wish the message for when we're done with items that we don't explicitly swing wasn't the same as the ones we used to bludgeon enemies with. But I suppose it doesn't matter all that much what term they use to say an item is done, so long as we know it is no longer usable. And it's not like it came as a surprise. We had her carrying a spare just in case for quite a while now. Not a bad level up there, Lynn, but I can't help feeling I'd prefer you gain some more strength and defense. Feels like I'm pretty done with this turn. We'll end the clip seeing what Eagler does as a reaction to the walls closing in around him. Well, it's not like Lundgren is worth siding with. Guy who's been giving me a good amount of trouble, he's really not doing anything to really come across as an outright villain, unlike every other boss we've run into. He's just a soldier who happens to be on the wrong side.